global analysts map out maritime risk, they look almost exclusively at choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. These transit corridors are highly congested and persistently monitored by foreign navies and open-source tracking networks. To find the real anomaly in maritime logistics, we have to look further north, past the Persian Gulf, to a massive, quiet body of water, the Caspian Sea. If we want to understand how modern state militaries bypass global tracking, we have to ignore the open oceans and analyze the mechanics of this isolated inland sea. The Caspian Sea is technically the world's largest lake. It is a completely landlocked expanse of water, entirely detached from the global ocean system. It is surrounded by exactly 5 sovereign states: Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Iran, and the Russian Federation. Because of its geography, the littoral states enforce a strict legal framework over these waters. Absolutely no foreign navies are permitted to enter. In standard international waters, riving nations actively project power, establishing patrol routes to monitor and occasionally intercept foreign shipping. The literal enforcement of this treaty effectively isolates the sea, creating a massive, data-dark void within the global maritime surveillance network. This geographic isolation has dictated the specific logistic strategies of the bordering nations. Supply chain planners measure routes by their interdiction risk, the mathematical probability that cargo will be intercepted or seized by an adversarial force. Moving military hardware across open oceans carries an extremely high interdiction risk, especially during periods of elevated geopolitical tension. But within the borders of the Caspian, the absence of foreign naval vessels drives that interdiction risk to zero for the nations operating inside it. This dynamic is currently being exploited along a strict north-south axis, directly connecting the Islamic Republic of Iran to the Russian Federation. Any cargo placed into this specific maritime corridor is shielded entirely from the surveillance and physical reach of the outside world. Moving material between Iranian and Russian military depots requires a highly specific set of physical infrastructure. The primary transit lines are direct maritime routes originating from ports in northern Iran, crossing the water and arriving at ports in southern Russia. But the ships are only half the system. An extensive land-based rail network runs parallel to the coastline. Together, they form a multimodal supply chain built specifically to shift heavy cargo seamlessly from water to rail and back again. The infrastructure at the water's edge is engineered for exact synchronization. Transport ships dock immediately adjacent to the railheads. Once the cargo is loaded onto the trains, the logistics network extends far past the coastline, driving deep into Iran's interior production facilities. This ability to easily transfer from ship to rail allows transporters to bypass congested maritime bottlenecks. This creates structural redundancy. If a port facility reaches capacity, the parallel rail lines absorb the overflow. Because it is entirely inland, the corridor operates continuously, insulated from the severe weather systems that disrupt open ocean shipping. Cargo moves end-to-end without ever passing through an international customs checkpoint or foreign inspection. The result is a high-velocity transit system, capable of moving heavy freight the entire length of the corridor in a fraction of the standard time. The integration of a legally closed body of water with a redundant coastal rail network forms a highly protected, uninterrupted pipeline. We can measure the capacity of this infrastructure by observing the sheer volume of military hardware moved through it in 2023. Intelligence reports confirmed massive stockpiles of basic munitions flowing continuously from Iran into Russia. The recorded data shows over 300,000 artillery shells and millions of rounds of small arms ammunition transiting the route in a single year. The flow is reciprocal. Moving south along the exact same lines are advanced Russian air defense systems bound for Iranian military installations. To move this volume of hardware without triggering global tracking alerts, these fleets employ an operational tactic called dark shipping. Commercial and military vessels broadcast their coordinates via an automatic identification system, or AIS. Dark shipping is the deliberate deactivation of those transponders. Iranian and Russian vessels operating here routinely cut their feeds the exact moment they enter the transit corridor. Vessels of all scales participate in this opaque network, including high-capacity container ships capable of transporting thousands of tons of heavy cargo. When these transponders go dark, external analysts lose all definitive visibility into how often these ships sail and how much weight they carry. By combining a geographically sealed basin with systematic dark shipping protocols, state actors can turn a massive logistics operation into an absolute data blind spot. We can now map the complete architecture: an isolated sea, synchronized rail infrastructure, and untraceable vessel movement. Prolonged regional conflicts require high rates of fire, rapidly draining domestic ammunition stockpiles. This specific north-south highway gives both nations the capacity to refill those stockpiles without disruption. Logistics analysts project that future manifests will expand to include more complex hardware, ranging from attack drones to advanced defense networks. If this volume of material moved through the open ocean, it would be vulnerable to economic sanctions, physical searches, and naval blockades. But inside this inland basin, Western navies have no physical access and zero legal authority to intervene. As long as the geography stands and the littoral treaties hold, the Caspian Sea functions as a permanent, uninterdictable highway for military supply.